Thanks for tuning in to Talking Point. I'm your host, Niraj Shah. Our brokerage note said thus, and I quote, as we progress into FY21, there is greater clarity on Tata Power's turnaround. Further, its sharpened focus on consumer-oriented businesses and ESG ratings are critical for its growth trajectory. Major restructuring initiatives are underway to set the house in order. Most sell-side analysts have come back very happy with all that Tata Power has done in the quarter and the initiatives announced. Let's pose all of the questions and the few queries that still remain to Mr. Praveer Sinha as he joins us on Talking Point today to talk about the company and the sector. Mr. Sinha, so good having you. Thanks so much for joining in and hope all is safe.
Thank you. Pleasure to be on your show. And yeah, everything is safe, and we continue to uh, hope that things will work out better in this quarter.
Yeah, cross fingers. I was thinking, Mr. Sinha, let's split this conversation into two. One is in the second half, we'll talk about what the impact of some of the government initiatives could be as well. But let's start off with what you are doing because you're doing something very impressive. Can you just tell us about how the quarter went by for you in terms of the challenges, the benefits that came in, and the measures that you took, which you think will pay off over the course of the next few quarters?
Uh, Let me start with the performance. I think all our existing operations did very well during the quarter, and the results have been very, very stable and consistent. So I think that's a very satisfying thing because this was a very tough quarter, and all our employees were fully committed and disciplined and showed tremendous resilience in showing performance. So that is as far as our operations and businesses are concerned. The only place where we found that there was less traction was in the EPC business. So though we have a very healthy order book of nearly 9,000 crores for solar EPC, we could not execute many of the orders because during this period there were lockdowns in number of places, and getting workers was a challenge, and also getting some of the cells and the panels from China was getting delayed, which now, of course, we have got, and hopefully in this quarter and next quarter, we'll be able to make up for the loss that was done in the first quarter. The other area, of course, was Tata projects. Again, Tata projects could not execute many of the projects, and hopefully in this quarter they will catch up. Coming to some of the long-term strategies that we have done, our divestment plan goes as per the plan. Uh, we have been able to, during COVID period, get the money from South African sale, and all the money came in the month of March and April. We also could complete the sale of the ships. The transaction was done, and some money came in the month of June, and the balance has come in the month of July. So I think uh, our divestment plan continues to move ahead. We expect the other sales, which is on the Zambian sale and the Indonesian sale for the smaller coal mines, will also happen in this financial year, and hopefully by the end of the year, we'll get all the money that we had planned. The three big announcements that happened. One was that we decided to go for an Invad that will help us. One is to deleverage and deconsolidate our debt, which is nearly 12,000 crores on our books. So that will go away from our books. The second is that it will give us enough cash for doing growth in the renewable business. We have huge plans to grow, and right now we are 2.6 gigawatt, and another 1.5 is under construction. So 4.1, we definitely want to make it five times this in the next 5 years, and that's the type of growth requires huge amount of capital, and the InvIT will help us to grow to that extent. The second big was the preference capital which the promoters were supposed to bring. That decision was taken, and that money has also come yesterday. So I think we are in good shape as far as the pref capital is concerned. The third big decision was taken in the board meeting day before yesterday, where the merger of a few of our companies was done. Typically, the CGPL, the Tata Power Solar, and the Aftab. And this is again our plan that how do we decomplex uh, and make the company much simpler. We have large number of subsidiaries and we are trying to consolidate it to see that our governance and site improves and our other costs which are involved in running these operations can be consolidated. So I think all in all, this has been a good quarter, gave us a lot of time to reflect and plan our future strategy. And we are very clear in the way that we will grow, apart from the renewable that we will grow through the Invad vehicle, we'll grow in our distribution business. We took over the distribution company in Odisha on 1st of June, and we are seeing good traction in that. So that's an area that we will grow much faster. Also, in some of our consumer-facing businesses, we'll grow, especially in EV and rooftop solar and solar pumps and home automation. So I think we have a very good pipeline of projects and business opportunities, and we will pursue all of them going forward.
Okay, let's try and talk about each of these one by one. Since you mentioned the merger, let me start off with that. Then I'll come to the under recoveries as well. The belief, Mr. Sinha, is that aside of course, the synergies and the cost reductions that you spoke about, there's also the factor of the accumulated losses in CGPL, and therefore, you know, it could be virtually tax free, the standalone entity for the next 5 years. Would that be a reasonable estimate?
Yeah, these are consequential benefits that will come because when you merge, then the merged company also benefits that it has access to capital and lower cost of capital. And as you know, that there are some statutory requirements in terms of putting FGD and some other equipments in these power plants. So I think we need to see at the whole thing in totality, and there will be some of these cascading benefits that will come to the company.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's a good term, cascading benefits. It's not the probably the intended reason, but nevertheless, it does come about. Just one quick follow up, since we talked about CGPL, and that's the under recoveries. A lot of people believe that this remains a key monitorable. Would you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, our under recovery has come down drastically. We have come down to a level of about 46 paisa, and
Yes.
we expect that this will further reduce in the quarters going forward. So I think we have been able to optimize our operation, and that has helped us in reducing our operational costs. And you have seen that how over a period of time we have been able to reduce the losses of CGPL. And this year again, we will further improve than what we did last year. And I'm very confident that the steps that the company has taken will help CGPL to become at least financially stable in its own operations.
Hmm. Um, the the one clarity that Mr. Sinha, at least that I think that most people were seeking, and maybe quantifiable clarity about the synergy benefits. Now, obviously, there are tax synergies, as you mentioned, cascading benefits, operational benefits, and you mentioned something about that as well, including the fact that there could be cost rationalization. Is it possible to, even in a brief way, quantify what some of these benefits could be like? How do you see them on an annualized basis or otherwise?
Uh, the whole process of merger takes about a year, 12 months to 15 months. We have to go through the NCLT process and
Yes.
the monitored EGM has to be done. So I think and it's a little premature. The decision has been taken, and we have to go through the process. I think down the line we will have some better clarity and understanding as to when these benefits will start impacting our results. So let's wait for some time, and we'll be able to share it once we have much better understanding of this.
Okay, cool. The other bit is, I think you referred a bit to about the Inwit and the merger of TPSSL. A lot of people again believe is a precursor to the impending Inwit deal as well. Would you want to talk a bit about that? Because I think in your opening statement too, you mentioned about how crucial this whole Inwit piece would be for you.
Yeah, the INVIT is very, very critical for us for the growth aspect. and also for deconsolidating. So there are two critical issues that we are trying to do through Invad. And the growth, if we have to grow at the level that we are looking at, it's very important that we do on an asset-light model rather than trying to have a huge debt on our books. So the only way that we could have done was through the InvIT. Also, the InvIT gives us the opportunity to take the cash out of the business, and that is again something very important for us also, as well as for the other investors who will come in. So I think the InvIT is a and for especially infrastructure projects which require huge amount of capital, the upstreaming of cash and the ability to bring large amount of capital into the structure, I think is a win-win for the investors as well as for sponsors like us.
And I think it helps you continue growing and at the same time make your debt reduction drive, which you are on right now, a reality. Mr. Sinha, just one small detail, and it might be too short term a detail to ask for, but I'm just wondering if you can comment on it. That while you've given your targets for the debt reduction plan, I think you've said the net debt target of what, 25,000 crores, if I'm not wrong, by FY21 end. Uh, but with this 3,500 crore reduction that we saw in quarter 1, would a similar amount or a near 3,500 crore amount be possible in quarter 2 itself because of the divestment proceeds that you spoke about, as well as the preferential if funds infused that you mentioned as well? Would we see a similar amount in quarter 2 itself?
It all depends as when the structuring takes place. Just for example, while the 2,600 crores pref capital will come in this quarter, the sale of some of the assets, the Indonesian coal mine or the Zambian investment, they may not happen in the second or may happen. Similarly, the InvIT, whenever it happens, is a bulk amount that will go away. 12,000 crores will go away from the books. So I think it all depends on the timing of these transactions, and at this stage, it would be very difficult to pinpoint and say that it will happen in second quarter or third quarter or last quarter. So I think our target is that within this financial year, we'll complete all these transactions.
Okay, and reach that net debt target of 25,000 crores, if I'm not wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
Just before we get to the other bigger picture, just a couple of smaller points. And again, I'm taking a leaf out of the earlier answers that you gave. One, renewable. And I think your peer JSW a few days back they were saying they've set some targets for 2050 when they could be 100% renewable. You've spoken a lot about how the focus on renewable seems to be at the forefront right now in Tata Power. But tell us a bit about this. I mean, would you at some time be a larger renewable company and in the near future, or is this a slightly longer term um, thought, if at all it is a thought?
Right now, we are about 35% of our generation is non-coal, which includes renewable and gas-based and also
Hmm.
hydro. We expect that by 2025 we will become 50%, 2030 we will become 75%, and 2050 will become 100% non-carbon. So I would say that we are very clear and we have gone on record to say that we are not going to add any more coal assets, whether it is greenfield or brownfield or even through the platform. So I think we, as a large integrated company, we are the first one in the country who have taken a stand that we are not going to add any more coal assets and will only go green uh, uh, in future. So I think we have taken a very conscious decision and positioned ourselves to be a green company of the future.
Yes, indeed. I mean, yeah, you of course led the way on a number of counts, Mr. Sinha, and kudos on that. Just one final question on the company side before a couple of other big picture questions. The consumer-facing businesses, you briefly mentioned them. I'm presuming that all of these are string of pearl strategy of sorts, that you will keep on adding these smaller solar rooftops, so on and so forth businesses, which eventually could grow larger. I mean, any outline of what the larger plan could be?
Yeah, rooftop solar, solar pumps, microgrids. These are again businesses we started really catering to on a large scale in last 12 months, and we are expecting that over a period of next 5 years will grow much faster than what we have grown earlier. Our target is that we'll possibly grow 10 times this number in next 5 years, both for rooftop solar as well as solar pumps. And in microgrids, we are talking about 10,000 microgrids in next 6 to 7 years. So I think we have very ambitious plans. Of course, due to COVID, some of these plans have got delayed, but we expect to catch up in the subsequent quarters, and we remain committed to the plans that we have set for ourselves.
With all of these plans, Mr. Sinha, even if FY21 were to show a bit of a dip on the EBITDA and the bottom line numbers, would you believe, as things stand right now, and if it's possible to predict that FY22 on a near normalcy basis could mirror what you've done in FY20, and then, of course, the other numbers start trickling in from FY23? Would that be a fair assumption?
We've not done such
You
detailed
haven't. Okay.
analysis,
No, I was
but
just
I can tell you that our growth plans are not just for 1 quarter or 1 year, but it's a 5 year, 10-year plan that we are looking at. And how do we set ourselves agenda for development and growth going forward? So it's a organic change that is happening within the organization, and the results will start coming in as we move forward. One of the other areas that I have not mentioned is about the distribution. Today, we are 5 million consumers. In fact, uh, taking over SESU itself added 2.5 from our earlier existing 2.5, we've now become 5 million consumers. We have a lot of opportunities in Odisha and other states and the union territories which the government of India has announced. So again, this is an area where we expect to grow by 5 times in next 5 years. So I think going forward, we have set an agenda. There may be some delays, some quarters it may not happen, or some year the government may delay the decision on the bidding for some of the state discom. But I think the writing is very clear, and the government policy is also moving in that direction. So there is a very
sure.
good opportunity. Only thing is we have to change track in terms of the changes that is happening from the consumer side, from the government side, and be ready for these changes as and when they come.
Mr. Sinha, some of the wires, or maybe it's coming in from a brokerage, but I'm just reading as of 9:56 a.m. today, there is a flash which says that companies emerged as the lowest bidder for Gujarat's biggest power project. I mean, any idea about what this is about?
Yeah, this was for a solar project. This is the Dholera
Okay,
complex coming up. We already had 300 megawatt ongoing projects. There's another bid that came up, and we have bid and 100
okay.
megawatt. So I think in last 3 months again, you would see that we've won nearly 900 megawatt of renewable projects. So there has been very good traction, and this is all working towards our bigger plan to become a big player in renewable distribution and new businesses.
This was, I think, this is the one in which for which I think in July last year you had received the LOA any which ways, if I'm not wrong, for 250 megawatts, if I'm not wrong. The same one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So at that stage we had got 250. Now we've got another 100. So and we had actually got two of them. So it was 300 megawatt in Tholera, and this is another 100. So total is about 400 megawatt.
Okay, interesting. One last question, Mr. Sinha. There is a lot of talk about, I mean, of course, we spoke about this earlier as well, if you would remember, about a month and a half or 2 months back, about the initiatives that the government did during the lockdown as well for the power sector. I'm just trying to think if anything that could have some consequences and positive impacts over the next 6 to 9 odd months, and something that you believe would be nice for the government to do because it could be the need of the, not necessarily for Tata Power as a company because we are a large player, but for the space at large because there are still a lot of players reeling under operational as well as debt pressures?
I think the two big announcements, the tariff policy and the amendment to the Electricity Act,
Yeah.
clearly shows the intent of the government that they want the distribution sector to improve. Now, the distribution sector can improve either by the existing discoms, or they can bring private players under the public-private partnership, or they can do the hybrid franchisee model. So I think the messaging that is going from Government of India to all the state discoms is that you need to become commercially viable, and you need to take some step either for privatization or franchising. And I think that will enable a lot of opportunities to come in the country. To start with, the government of India itself has talked about union territories which will be privatized. So that's one big message. The other is that they are asking that the payment has to be made by the discoms to the generators and transmission company, and to that extent, certain safeguards are being provided to ensure that this is taken care, whether in terms of opening of LC or the contract enforcement authority that will come, or the larger benches of APTEL, and the transparency in selecting of the chairman and members of the State Regulatory Commission, so that the system becomes much more transparent and is able to effectively promote the power supply in the country. So I think the government of India is very, very keen that these reforms happen in the power sector and the power sector becomes self-sustainable in future.
Okay. Well, you as a company, please keep up your good work, Mr. Sinha. Kudos on the quarter and all the best for the quarters ahead. Thanks so much for speaking to us on Talking Point today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A pleasure speaking to you.
Likewise. And viewers, thanks for tuning into this edition of the Talking Point.